go. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Daily Dose. I'm your host, Dylan Davis. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt McGinty, the kid with the big head. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt_McGinty. And we're also joined by Brock Landis. You can follow him on Twitter at LandisBrock. If you're not already subscribed to his YouTube channel, go subscribe to it because you're doing something wrong in life. Brock, what's going on, dude?
Chilling, bro. I'm happy to be here. Honestly, we were just chopping it up a little bit before the chat, talking about basketball, and I feel like that's how the next hour or so, however long we're here, is going to go. It's not going to feel like we're talking about anything other than the stuff we love. So I'm excited to do it with you guys. It's been highly anticipated. We've been trying to do this for a little minute now, but now that it's finally happened, I'm going to hold you guys to it. We got to make it happen more often. So I'm looking forward to working with you too.
Let's do it, bro. The Daily Dose is brought to you by the Painted Lines Network. We're streaming to you guys live through Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. So if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. Go follow the Painted Lines on Twitter at the Painted Lines. Dude, let's get right into it. The Philadelphia 76ers come back from the All-Star break. No Joel Embiid, no Ben Simmons, no problem. Thursday night in Chicago as they roll the Chicago Bulls 127-105. 7 guys in double figures. Toby with 24 in limited minutes. The Tony Bradley game. Thybulle starring on the defensive end. Dwight Howard coming off the bench and dropping, 18 and 12. Combining the centers 32 in JoJo's place. 55 bench points. Brock, talk to me, dude. What changed? Because we've seen what this team looks like with missing just one of the superstars. How the hell did they pull this off without both of the superstars?
This is a complete basketball team. This is when everything comes together as one and it all just looks beautiful on the court. That's the product of constant repetition, great coaching, accountability top to bottom. So if you think of like the Spurs dynasty, everything just looked beautiful. They had the perfect roster construction, the perfect system. Each player knew their roles, a perfect coach. Everything was flawless. Now that's what's happening in Philadelphia to a lesser degree. It's not as perfect yet. There's still things that can use work, and the Sixers aren't close to where Doc Rivers wants them to be. But listen, this is a system that works, and this game was indicative of that. So you plug Tony Bradley in, you keep Dwight Howard in his role, and the Sixers just executed everything. I think every possession close to it had the two-man game or breaking a 5-on-5 down into a 3-on-3. So that just tells me everyone knew their role. And when you have a team that knows their roles, it's money. Like, Tobias knows his spot is butter at the free throw line. He pull up, it's butter there. Maybe 15 feet out on the baseline, he pulls up there, it's butter. He knows that that's his spot. It's huge for a player like him, for example, to know, okay, Tony Bradley or Dwight Howard, whichever one it is setting a screen right here. I know where to navigate around it. I know how the defender generally is going to play it, and I know how much space I have. So he can just attack his spot and get his buckets there easy because that's his game. And that's what the system allows these players to do. It's the same for Shake. It's the same for Furkan. It's the same for Maxie when he plays. Everyone knows their roles. So the big two, Tony Bradley, Dwight Howard, they know I'm setting a screen, putting a body on someone, and I'm rolling. That's how they get their buckets. That's how they produce. That's what I saw in the game against Chicago.
What did you see on Thursday night against Chicago that's different from games without one of the superstars?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the last time we talked was right before the game. We said, like, this one's leaning towards we don't know if we'll be able to compete tonight. We're missing our two main guys. But, I mean, you just look top to bottom. Everyone contributed, like Brock said. Matisse Thybulle at one point was on pace for, 37 steals. He made Zach LaVine's night a little hard. That's all he had to do.
Yeah.
We talked about if we can hold Zach LaVine to under 35 points, this thing's winnable. The Chicago Bulls are a dumpster fire right now. Even though I love LaVine. LaVine's awesome. I like Kobe White. They have guys with some promise. And, of course, they have Ryan Arch. So they're good in my book. But yeah, it's just a whole team effort that we talk about we need a move and something has to be done. But then you saw that game and it's like, okay, we can contend with these guys. Even though you want to make a move, you want to improve, you always want to improve. But, we're where we are because this team can contend. You know what I mean?
When I look at this game, it kind of goes back to what Brock was just speaking on. It was before the game started and the starting five was released on Twitter, and Shake Milton wasn't in the starting five. Like the Dwight Howard thing we've seen before. When Joe doesn't play, he was starting earlier in the year, and it was a complete dumpster fire when Dwight had to start. So we've seen Doc use Tony Bradley to start and keep Dwight in that backup role. But I figured without Ben, Shake's going to fill that starting point guard role, and he didn't, shy away from his bench unit. He kept Shake in his role. He kept Dwight in his role, and he just let the rest of the lineup work. And then when you talk about Matisse Thybulle, yeah, he was on pace for like 35 steals that night. But then I look at his 3 for 3 from deep. And then the one play, I forget if it got I think the ball got swung to the corner in transition, and it got swung back to him on the wing, and this defender sagged off to give help. And he just pulled it. He didn't hesitate, nothing, and he knocked it down. That's huge going forward for Tease.
Of course. So here's what I want to say to your first point, right? Like, imagine you guys are on a ball team. You're on a rec team, let's say. You're the starting point guard of the rec team. Like, when you show up to the court and you know that you're coming off the bench with your 4 guys, or there's going to be 2 starters on the floor you always play with, the game is just easier, right? You don't have to overthink things. You don't have to question where your shots are coming from or who you're passing to. You know where your teammates are going to be, where their shots are coming from. You're comfortable with those guys you're playing with. You know how much time you're going to get in the game, usually what guys will be defending you, and it makes the game easier. The same could be said for Dwight and Shake. It's like they could be starting caliber players, but Doc knows what he's doing here and bringing them off the bench because they're showing up to work and they know exactly what to expect. They know where they're going to get their shots, how many shots they'll get, and it doesn't really matter where you start. It's how you're finished. It's how you finish. So if Doc puts Shake in for 20 minutes a game, but he gets his buckets and he gets to his spots, that's a successful game, and it's the equivalent of him starting. It really doesn't matter. And to your second point, I think Tease is incredible. And this past week or so, 2 weeks, has really shown that he could probably be a low-end starter right now. Like, if he could get that 3 ball up to 38, 39, 40, low 40%, he has to be a starter because defensively, he's truly one of a kind. He's so springy, always in the passing lanes, disruptive, and statistically one of the best players in the past decade. I mean, 50-plus steals, 30-plus blocks in under 700 minutes in back-to-back seasons. And there's only been 11 players in the past decade to do that in under 1,000 minutes. So he's obviously an elite company defensively. The film and the numbers justify it. But if he can hit that 3 ball consistently, like at a real good clip, you got to start him. You just have to. So I'm excited to see what Tease's growth looks like.
I've said that for a while. Me and Gint before the season said if Tease can get up to league average 3-point percentage wise, he would be a starter in my book. He hasn't been that yet this year, but if he can continue to grow there, of course. And like, especially when you look at like when bench scoring was an issue and it's okay. What if you could move Seth or Danny to the bench and start Tease at the 3 in a normal situation? But another guy, Tobias Harris just continues to impress me, dude. Like, he's done it consistently all year, and a poor start doesn't deter this man anymore. Like, he started, 0-4 against Chicago?
First quarter, 0-for-5.
And he finished 8 of 15 for 24, leading the way. Like, that's really impressive to me. And I'll give the man his due. Gint, Furkan, 16 off the bench.
Yes, sir.
Hold on, 16 off the bench. And 1 of 6 from 3. How the hell does that happen? But Furkan Korkmaz and the rest of that bench lit it up. Like I said, 55 points in a 22-point win over Chicago. Is there anything else you guys want to get into from the Chicago game, or do you want to move on to the Wizards?
I'm good.
I think I'm good. The important thing to take away is that the Sixers scored a season high in points in the paint against Chicago. Chicago surrendered a season high. So that's without Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. The Sixers did that much damage in the paint without those two. So that proves this system works. The thing is, they know between Ben, Joe, and Tobias, they can compete with anybody, and they trust their championship team. It's just filling in subtly, filling in those holes in the rest of the system that'll elevate this team to truly a championship contender.
I think this right here, this comment from Mike, the last word in it is the biggest issue with the bench, talking about bench scoring, and that is consistency. Like, when you look at this past weekend, and you got to take it by the level of competition also. So like I said, 56 points or 55 points against Chicago off from the bench. And then you go in a back-to-back against Washington on the road, and the bench gives you 56 points. But, can this bench do that against the Milwaukees, the Bostons, the Brooklyns of the world? I don't know. That's the biggest issue, and we'll get into trade targets in a little bit. But like I said, the Sixers, welcome back Joel Embiid, 127-101. They roll the Washington Wizards and Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, 56 bench points. JoJo returned like he never left, 23 points in 20 minutes on 8 of 11 from the field. And we'll get to his injury and the feelings that we had and, you know, what it means going forward in a little bit. But Brock, talk to me about the rest of the team in JoJo's play against Washington, because once again, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures that night, 7 the night before. Talk to me again about what's going on here with this team.
All right, so this proves how good, first off, how good Joel Embiid is and how significant his dominance is. So, again, Joel Embiid does his thing in the first half, plays MVP basketball, right? He's close to 20 points. I think it was 3 points shy of 20 in the first half. And if he hit 20, that would have marked, of course, the season high for points, games with 20-plus points in the first half. He leads the league, but very close to 20. Still imposed his will, close to double-digit free throw attempts. Joel Embiid, if he gets to his spots early and can impose his will, the Sixers are in a great position. Like, they're in great shape because now the team has to match up. They got to defend him. They got to throw doubles at him. They got to do something. And that just opens opportunities for his teammates. He imposed his will early, and that put the Sixers in a great position in the second half to just close the door on Washington. And as long as they have guys that off the bench or when Joel or Ben and Tobias aren't on the floor can protect and expand leads, they're super tough to play because they're already tough enough to match up with physically. And now you've got guys that can just go to work and push that lead when those guys you can't match up with aren't on the floor. So this game told me Embiid is the MVP right now, most dominant player in ball. He single-handedly impacted his game enough to where in the second half, if the bench just took over and did their thing, if Joe could get bailed out, the Sixers were going to win. And he definitely got bailed out because everyone else stepped up. Shake, great game. Curry looks a little more confident. Furkan, great game. Tony, Bradley, Dwight, they did their thing in his absence. So I think the Sixers are in a really good position right now.
Go ahead, Gint.
Yeah, no, he touched on it. It's the way they're starting games. And you saw it a lot when they played the Lakers. And you just see they're coming out of the gate and just getting a lead. And they're kind of sitting on the lead. I know in the Washington game, they got almost smoked in the second quarter, and the game turned into a game at halftime. But the way they're starting halves and first halves and second halves is really important to me. Like when Brett Brown was the coach, RIP to him. I hate him. The third quarter was dreadful for the Sixers always. And then when you looked at these really good teams like Golden State during their run had like history of beating teams in the third quarter by an average of double-digit points. So the start of halves is so big for the Sixers. And then everything you guys said, Joel Embiid, Mo Wagner, whatever his name is, the dude that I hate from Michigan. Man, he probably sees Joel Embiid in his nightmares, dude. He can't even kind of cover him.
His brother's better than him at Michigan right now, too.
He's in a different strategy. I mean, think about it. Like, Joel Embiid has to be the most unguardable player in the league. Like, LeBron in his prime, I would make the same argument. LeBron was a video game character. He still is. But at this point in time in the NBA, I don't think there's a player, even Giannis or Jokic. Maybe Jokic is close to Embiid because they have a very similar game in a sense. But I don't think any player in the league is tougher to guard than Embiid because the dude's 7 feet tall, 7'1", 7'2", whatever his height may be, and he's heavy. He's not him personally. He's not an overweight guy, but he's a heavy dude. Like, not many people can put a body on Embiid. You can't knock him over. You can't run into him. You can't stop him. You got to be strong to do that. So you couple that with the fact that Embiid has an automatic J. I mean, anything inside of the perimeter is basically a bucket or a foul, and outside of it, he's shooting the 3 ball at 40%. It's like, how do you want it? Pick your poison. Like, you got to throw 2 at him or you're just going to get scored on. So I don't know how anybody's more dominant than Embiid is. You can only be as dominant as he is right now. You can't be more dominant.
Dude, I've never seen a center. This is slightly off topic. I've never seen a center do the things he can do. I've never seen it, bro.
We're in the same age range, right? Like we're all kind of in that same age range. Like we grew up with some good centers. Like I saw Shaq towards the back end of his career. We had KG, Tim Duncan, Melo at the power forward. We saw Dirk. Like we saw a lot of big men. I've never seen anybody like Embiid, genuinely. I've
No,
never
I'm
seen
being
a
dead
player
serious.
play like Embiid.
Bro, you can go the step back 3 against Utah to send it to overtime. I
Yep.
said it the day after. No center in the history of the league could do
With
what he did
a defender in
in his mitt.
face like this, 2 hands up, right in his like off balance, game on the
Yes.
line, fadeaway 3-pointer.
But it's not even just that. It's the one game. I think it was the first game against Chicago when he dropped like 42. He grabs a defensive board, takes it the length of the floor, and Euro dunks. I've never seen anything like it, bro.
You watch it, and it doesn't even make sense. It's like I can't even describe it. I can't imagine someone that size just shouldn't be allowed to move like that. That's biology. Is that the right terminology? Is that biology? Is that the right word? Like,
I think so.
That big shouldn't be able to do the things he does. Like, that's something that a 6'6" player does, or a 6'8" forward that's super athletic. Like, to be his height and his weight, like, I don't understand it. He's doing things that don't make sense. Like, he's doing things that Kevin Durant does, and Kevin Durant's like 100 less pounds than him.
Oh, dude, I said it last week. Like, I know some people are going to disagree with me, but as like right now, obviously he's out for a couple weeks, but right now he is the best player in the world, in my opinion. He's the most dominant, like right in this moment. I'm not saying he's better than Kevin Durant, LeBron James, but he's playing the best ball than anyone in the league right now.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I'm saying that. You can't be any more dominant than Embiid is. You could only be as dominant and see it. Like, I'm sure Denver Nuggets fans would say you can only be as dominant as Jokic. You can't be more dominant. I'd agree. Like, there's some guys playing incredibly dominant ball that just can't be stopped. But you can't be any more dominant than Embiid is. Like, this is the epitome of perfect basketball. Like, he's making very little mistakes. Passing out of turnovers, rebounding, like the shooting, the ball handling, the playmaking. It's just all been off the charts. It's just beautiful to watch. Like, I feel privileged to be able to watch what Embiid's doing right now.
Yeah, I feel privileged too. And now let's make the show a little depressing.
No, hold on. Let me just one more thing for the Washington game, because both of you guys, I know Dylan wants to be like in the radio industry, and Brock, you're content creator on the NBA side.
Oh God.
So you saw, I mean, I'm assuming you guys heard what was said by the absolute, I'm not going to use names, but just
call him what he is, yo. Casual
announcer. Washington's announcer.
Tell him he's a casual.
Ben did call him a casual. But let me hear your guys' thoughts, truthfully. Because
go ahead, Dylan. Go ahead.
If you're in that position, in my opinion, you should know around the NBA. I know he's a Washington guy, but you should know who's coming in, what guy that is. But to me, like, that screamed the fact that he watches the 4 times we play Washington a year, and then he doesn't watch another Ben Simmons game in his life. So I would love to know your guys' opinions on that guy and why that was said.
Well, obviously, like, I didn't hear it live. Obviously, I just saw like the tweet and the video about it. And well, I didn't even know he did it until he tweeted about it and said yes.
Well, yeah, that was the worst part. He then tweeted.
Yeah, like I've never seen a dude talk so out of pocket and then back up his statement on his own on a social media platform. It's just ridiculous, bro. Like it's really ridiculous. It's like, what do you call him? The most overrated player in the league?
Overrated, overhyped. And he said something about like how Tobias doesn't get enough something because of Ben. Like,
yeah. So
that's just a casual.
Essentially, he said that Tobias Harris is a way better ball player than he gets recognition for.
Okay.
And part of the reason that he doesn't get recognition is because Ben Simmons is so overhyped. Like, he's so overrated in the basketball world that it's taking away from Tobias Harris' shine. And he doubled down because Drew Gooden, he didn't press him, but as he was saying it, the commentator who also played basketball was kind of like he's making a noise in the background, like this dude's a little out of pocket. And then he doubled down on it on Twitter and said, yeah, I said it. He's overhyped, he's overrated, and I think he makes the all-NBA teams or whatever out of like reputation, out of being overhyped. And that was the part that bothered me. Of everything that bothered me, that it bothered me the most, because if people are making these decisions where there's more than one set of eyes on them, like if people are sitting down that professionally cover basketball and are like, all right, who's the best defensive player of the year is Ben Simmons. Like that's beyond you. So don't just hate, like don't hate on someone because they have an award or on their accolades because you have a personal bias. That's just annoying. But for me, I'll speak from personal anecdotes. I did I was part of the student-run radio station at Temple, right? So I did play-by-play sports broadcasting for their basketball team for the radio station. So I spent a week in advance, like preparing for the game they had by watching all highlights of the other team, like seeing them around
Right.
the conference, individually, each player preparing for the game. And I think a lot of broadcasters would say the same. That's advice that I took. And in doing that, you learn a lot about the other players and a lot about the other team and how they attack. And it just makes you see the game easier and a little differently. To your point, Gint, like, that's exactly right. That's somebody that watched the Sixers play the 4 times they played, or somebody that's on Twitter or has conversations with people and says Ben Simmons doesn't have a jump shot, so he sucks, or he's overrated. Like, that's someone that's either being spoon-fed opinions or they're just too ill-advised and ignorant to sport their own opinion. Like, he obviously doesn't watch Sixers basketball, because if you've seen anything in the past month, it's that Ben Simmons, he's not as dominant as Joel Embiid, but he's just as integral to their success as Joel Embiid is. You need him out there facilitating. You need him out there on defense. You need his floor game. On some nights, you need his offense. You need his attack. You need him to generate shots. So if you just would watch any Sixers games that they win or compete in, it's obvious. And this just tells me that this is a guy that was like, I'm speaking out, I'm talking out the neck, and then I'm going to double down on it for whatever reason. I don't know where his confidence came from.
But it's not, it's like wrong in 2 different ways as well. It's like, it's wrong in the sense that it's just not true, because he is deserving of all those accolades and everything that you just spoke on, Brock. But it's wrong in the fact that as a person in the Philly area and all, where people in this very town talk shit on him,
oh my God.
I don't get where he thinks he's overhyped. All I ever hear is disrespect.
Exactly.
Like, I don't ever hear people overhyping Ben Simmons or talking like great about Ben Simmons. It's always, he doesn't shoot. He needs a jump shot. He's a defense player of the year, but he brings nothing offensively. Blah, blah. I never hear over talk about Ben Simmons' play.
I'm surprised the Simmons family or Clutch Sports hasn't reached out to me and asked to get me on there. I pour my blood, sweat, and tears. Like, I spend almost every hour of my day in my free time grinding to show people how good Ben Simmons is. Like, just simply put, how good of a basketball player, like how good at the sport he is. And for some reason, like, I have to go to war with people every time I log on to this app. Yeah. About it. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, I don't know how you call a player that gets that's so polarizing the most overrated player in the league.
Yeah, I was just curious because, like, you obviously see that tweet from at Donovan Mitchell fan 126 saying Simmons is overrated and stuff, but like, to come from a place where people are listening to you every single night, there's a Washington Wizards basketball game in, I'm assuming, thousands. Like, that's just, to my opinion, just.
Bro, this very town, these very fans would have shipped Simmons off 2 months ago for James Harden, but not Tyrese Maxey.
Listen, the Ben Simmons trade stuff was crazy, and people were really saying crazy things. Like, nobody's pulled up the receipts, and I'm not that type of guy where I would pull up receipts, but I remember people are saying some crazy things.
I got screenshots, bro. I keep.
I'm glad you do. I need you to send them to me. I need to laugh, but like, I tried to stay solid throughout that whole thing. I knew what type of player Ben was. I've been watching the Sixers for some years now. I was confident, and I saw what was happening on the film. Like, that's the thing that bothers me when people like try to step to me on Twitter. It's like, you might not agree with my opinion, but you can't invalidate it, because I'm watching this like it's a science. Like, I'm seeing every play of every game and breaking it down as best I can. Like, I see what Simmons is doing, and I want people to appreciate it. And for some reason, like, it's just so hard to get people to understand that, like, these players you want to trade Simmons for, they can't do what Simmons does. And he's 24 years old in his 4th professional season. Like, there's no other 24-year-old in his 4th season that gets held to this standard. And yet it makes no sense, because he's probably, other than Embiid or maybe a couple of Eagles along the line, there really hasn't been an athlete in Philadelphia sports since Allen Iverson that literally busted their ass every possession, every play of the game, the way that Ben does. Like, any given night, He's like, all right, Doc, even with Brett Brown, you want me guarding this center, I'll go out and take the center. You want me sticking with this point guard that no other player on the team can stick with, I'll go get him. Offensively, he probably knows he can score 30 a game. Like, all he has to do is drive in the paint, get in someone's chest. He's going to score 30 a game. He probably knows it. So he's like, all right, I'll help my teammates out. Let me drive, collapse the D, and we'll get it 3. 3's more than 2. I'll help Joel Embiid. We'll get the spacing a little better. Like, I'll chill in the dunker spot so he can just post the dude up and go to work. Like, all of this stuff is great basketball, and it's so fun to watch to me. But for some reason, it's like people want to trade him for a guy that's going to chuck 30 shots a night, and the Sixers are going to win 35 games and be a 6 seed. Like, what do you want to do that? Okay, James Harden, he's a generational talent, right? So that was the hardest decision I've ever had to make. Like, I towed the line so many times. I was like, bro, it's James Harden. Like, if you weren't in this situation, like, if it was any other player in the league, you would have traded him for Harden in a second. And then I'm like, okay, Ben Simmons for James Harden. Like, I don't know. That sounds kind of good.
People also act like he's been in the league for years, bro. He's the same age as Tease, isn't he?
He's 24, yeah.
Like, he's the same age as Thybulle.
Like 2 years able to legally drink. Like, he just turned 21 a few years ago, bro. Like
people act like Thybulle is like this baby in the league still, and like, oh, like he's like part of the asset of the future, and like they act like Ben's like been here for 18 years. Like, bro, they're the same age, or maybe a year apart.
The thing is, LeBron, Jordan, KD, none of them won a ring in their first 5 seasons. None of them won a ring right away, I don't believe. Like, it took at least 5-6 seasons for them to win their first ring. And I'm not saying Ben is any of the 3 of them, but it's just unfair to take a guy in his first 4 seasons. Mind you, his third was cut short because of COVID, so his body of work didn't get to expand over the course of a full season. So you're looking at like 3.5 full seasons of basketball, right? In his 24th year of birth, or 24th year on this earth. And we're holding them to these standards that like we would hold LeBron James to. And like, I kind of get it because he was getting these comps to Magic and LeBron, and he was working with world-class coaches. He went to LSU, he did a documentary. Like, I get there's all these things and the pressure of being a number 1 pick, but I don't get how people don't see what he does. Like, it's right in front of your faces. And if you ask the people that watch basketball, that analyze it for a living and know the sport and the way his peers speak of him, like LeBron and KD, they know.
Yeah, like if that, I know it's just the All-Star draft, but if you couldn't take that, bro, in the second round, like his second bench pick was Ben, and then KD was like, damn, I was going to take Ben. Like, if you like,
and let me add this too, like, for the people that say he hasn't developed anything, or he has. When people say he has no jump shot, this is all you have to ask him, right? It's very simple. If he's in transition, let's say the Sixers have a 3-on-2 advantage in transition. It's Ben Simmons, Danny Green, and Seth Curry.
Right.
So there's 2 green light shooters going to the wing of the corner. You know where they're going, and you know where Ben's going. He's dribbling in transition. He's probably going to the basket, right?
Right.
These teams sell out to stop Ben every single time. I mean, teams don't even pick green light shooters up because they got to get in the paint. They got to get in front of Ben. They got to double Ben. They got to help out because he has this rare combination of speed and power that only 3 players now probably can generate in Giannis, LeBron, and Ben. But like, if you look at it historically, like, this is such a rare combination. I'm telling you, I'm watching this Ben Simmons film. I have this video I'm dropping comparing him to Scotty and Magic and these guys. And I'm looking at it like, I might tweet some controversial stuff right now. But I'm almost 95% certain Ben Simmons is a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. And that might be like a crazy thing for people to hear, and they might think I'm losing my mind, and I could be. But I'm watching how many similarities he has to these players like Magic and Pippen, and how rare that combination of speed and power is, that I think that's the trajectory. And if he can just tap into his potential, he's going to be there. And right now, I think he's on pace for that. Like, if he wins, if he gets far in the playoffs, maybe if he does something on his own, like, as long as he gets some sexy accolades he can throw onto the resume, there's no reason why he won't. And it's unfortunate that I'm pegging him with that this early in his career at 24 years old, but that's just what I'm seeing. And reaffirmation would be Doc Rivers like 3 years ago, before Doc knew who Ben was really. And when Ben was real young, Doc was like, he passes like magic. He plays like Pippen. He's a Swiss Army knife. He can do it all. Like, his combination of speed and power is just so rare. So you've got a guy in Doc who played against all these Hall of Famers saying that. And then a guy like Dwight who played with LeBron and in the league for the past 20 years. It's like, yeah, he's the best defender in the league, in my opinion. Like, the dudes that know basketball know what's up. And that's why you don't even have to argue anymore. Like, if you believe in Ben Simmons, if you see what's going on with Ben Simmons, you just know you're a real one. That's it. Like, you don't need that validation from anyone. You don't need to argue with anyone, because when it's all said and done, you're going to be right, and you can pat yourself on the back for that.
Again, you just touched the nerve with Brock, bro.
Yeah, dude. That was
Again, we just unpacked a can of worms.
What did that in? You gave me a platform to voice that.
Oh, man. Yeah, hold on. I mean, I'd have to look at other benches, but Nadir, because
15 at best.
You think we're?
I don't even know. Like,
Utah, Milwaukee, the Lakers, Golden State's bench. Like, there's teams that have good benches.
Yeah, we're definitely not top half of the league.
I don't think so.
I mean, there's nights where they can play like it.
Exactly.
Right. It's consistency, though, bro.
But yeah, if you got that every night, then this team would be head and shoulders.
Like, I'll tell you, dude, that is going to be critical, like, on this postseason run, coming off the bench, like Shake, right? 18, 8 of 14 the other night. But then you look at the game against Chicago. I mean, damn, what was he? 10 points, 5 of 15, 0 of 2 from 3. Like, Shake's in my opinion, Shake's the one that has to be most consistent. Like, I know we dog on Korkmaz when he's not shooting and he's inconsistent, and we'll get on Thybulle when he plays 22 minutes and doesn't get a bucket or anything. But Shake is the one that has to be most consistent coming off the bench.
He's the quarterback of that second unit. Like, they say the point guard is the extension of the head coach. Shake Milton is the extension of the head coach with the second unit. He's just been a little inconsistent shooting that 3-ball, and it's hindering his performance this season.
Yeah.
I think he's had the injury, and it's just been tough to get his footing, but he had a really good first half of the season. So I'm not worried about Shake, but he's just the type of guy that's got to see a couple of shots fall before he gets into his groove.
Yeah.
And once he does that, once he gets comfortable, he's going to be huge. But Dylan, if you get like 16 points out of Shake, if your starters play 35 minutes in the playoffs and your second unit's on the floor for 15 minutes, and he can give you 16 points any given game, that's the difference right there. That's how you separate yourselves on the scoreboard.
That's the number before the season started. I said, like, because you remember before the season started, everyone was like, Shake, 6th man of the year. Shake, we've seen Doc was 6th man before and all that. And I said 16 is like the number he'd have to be around for that. But we'll get to the bench in a few minutes and talk about some trade targets and have some fun with it. But again, I'll start with you first on this one. So we talked about the highs of that Washington game and 2 beautiful back-to-back road wins, blowing teams out by 20 plus without, the first game without both stars, second game without one. But that beautiful win came with a price tag. Joel Embiid lands awkwardly. I've seen it happen before with him, but this time he didn't get up and hobble away and, take a minute. He stayed on the floor. Might have been in tears. I'm not even sure. I was in tears almost watching it. And like, dude, this season was so much fun. I'm like, it's all over. But then it comes out that it's just a bone bruise, no structural damage. The MRI revealed 2 weeks. I got a feeling it's going to be more than 2 weeks. I got a feeling this is like a 2-week reevaluation period, and then it's however much longer they say. So again, tell me first, like, what the hell went on in your mind Friday night when that man was on the ground in pain?
No, I mean, yeah, like you said, I started crying. Pray to God. But no, this is kind of leading into a question I had for kind of both of you is, they said 2 to 3 weeks. Do you think the fact that there's been no move made in terms of another big man, that they're just going to run with Tony Bradley and Dwight Howard because like the fact that they didn't make a move makes me think like, oh, they really think it's only going to be 2 weeks. And this isn't going to be like a long dragged out thing where he doesn't play 15 games. Because, I mean, I know Brock loves him. DeMarcus Cousins is out there.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And like, that was one of the things that when Dylan told me he came on, that was like one of the first people I wrote down to ask you about. I was like, do you think there's a chance that Dwight is in a Sixers uniform at any point?
You mean
Boogie.
Yeah.
Sorry, DeMarcus Cousins.
I got you. Listen, I hope so. I really hope so. So I think a bone bruise lingers. Like, if I'm not wrong, I think a bone bruise lingers, which means Embiid might not be back in 2 weeks, but I think they play Milwaukee in a back-to-back.
But real quick, not to cut you off, isn't that just what Toby had?
What, a bone bruise?
Isn't that what he had?
Where was Toby's? Do you remember? Was it in his, like, I don't remember where it was. I don't remember where his was, but I think because it's in the knee, it might bother him when he's running or when he lands on it. I could be wrong. But I think maybe 3-4 weeks is where you can anticipate Joe comes back if he's fully up to speed and everything. I think maybe it expedited the process of going out and getting a big man. And there's guys on the market. I just think Daryl Morey might wait and see how things play out. Like, because Vooch out in Orlando is potentially being sold at the deadline. Andre Drummond is potentially being bought out. He's been held out. Kevin Love could always get traded.
Aldridge is on the move.
Marcus Aldridge now on the move. PJ Tucker not getting a contract from Houston. He could be on the move. So there's a lot of names out there, and I think because of it, Philadelphia might not rush to get DeMarcus Cousins. It would be a beautiful fit, in my opinion. But I don't think they're going to rock with Tony Bradley for the rest of the season or even in the playoffs because, yeah, against Chicago, they set a team high 78 points in the paint. He's good in the paint. He can get his buckets and spacing. But like you said, Dylan, when you play a Utah or when you play the Lakers, when you play a team that's going to lock things down defensively, Tony Bradley's not going 7 for 7 from the field and getting 14 points combining for 32 with Dwight, right? Like, they're going against giants. They're not doing that against Gobert, not Jokic, not Anthony Davis. So if the Sixers do upgrade at the 5, I think Boogie's perfect. Like, why not? He could space the floor. He might not be shooting great in terms of percentage, but he warrants enough defensive respect to come guard him out there. So He could light it up for 25 on any given night. He's still a little nimble, doesn't move as well, but he's a nimble enough center to get a bucket in a one-on-one matchup. Defensively, probably not as good, and he's definitely not as good as he used to be. But if you've got an Embiid on the floor with him, a Dwight on the floor with him, a Ben and Tease on the floor, whatever, you can kind of mask that a little bit in the playoffs for 15 minutes. Why not? But they're definitely going to make a trade. Like, there's trades coming. There's at least 2 players that are getting added to this Sixers roster. I'll confidently guess. I just don't know in terms of calculated risk, like when Moore wants to go get him and how quickly he's going to strike. But they're coming. I'm fairly certain.
I'd love Boogie. Again, I'll just put it simple. Like, I think
he got cut. Remember we were doing the Daily Dose, and I was like, I'll drive. If it meant Dwight had to either one take a speed or move, like, he can hop into Pontiac and I'll take him where he's got to go. You know what I mean?
Like, I'm imagining this as like a 1990s basketball team that played straight bully ball, scooped up and dropped in the modern day brand of basketball.
Yeah.
It's like if you took Hakeem Olajuwon with a deadly 3. I don't even want to compare. I don't even need to compare. You've got Embiid, Simmons, and Tobias on the floor who are all 6'8 plus. They're going to bully dudes as it is. Your second unit, you've got Dwight. He's a bully. And Matisse Thybulle, who's 6'5", who's locking everything up. Like, he's a bully defensively too. So there's enough bully ball right there. You add DeMarcus Cousins, like, the dude's also over 6'8". He's 6'10", and he's a bully. Like, he knows how to bully people. Zach Randolph told him, bullies get bullied where I come from. Like, DeMarcus is a bully. So if you throw 3 bullies on the floor in both of your units, like, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to bully other teams. They're going to foul you. You're going to get to the line. You're going to get buckets. Like, you're just going to impose your will, and the rest of the league is going to have to play catch up with you because they're like, I don't know how we match up with this team. And think about all the championship teams that just did that. Like, the Lakers championship team, some of the greatest teams of all time. Like, they just bullied guys. Kareem, Magic, Michael Cooper defensively, James Worthy. Like, they had the talent and the size to just bully teams. The Bulls did it. It's like, if you go back and look through the history of basketball, if you could bully teams, you're good. Straight.
How many days do we have to the deadline, Gant?
March 25th, right? 11th?
When is it?
I think it's March 25th.
So 11 days.
I don't even know what the exact date is, but
I'll look it up. And I'm pretty sure it's the 25th.
I think you're right.
I think right now, like, there's guys like Tony Snell or Wayne Ellington that could probably get bought out that Daryl Morey doesn't have to trade for right now.
Yeah.
But I think they're kind of waiting to see how the market plays out because there are a lot of names linked to a lot of different teams right now. And Orlando is somewhere that really intrigues me. Really intrigues me because they could be sellers. Like they've got a lot of money
Oh,
tied
yeah.
to guys that have not done a lot in Orlando. They might want to go in a different direction under new coaching. Markelle got that injury. They have money tied to Jonathan Isaac, who got hurt, Aaron Gordon, and Vooch never really amounted to anything in Orlando. So Terrence Ross could be had potentially. Evan Fournier on an expiring maybe. I want to watch Orlando and see what they do.
I like it, but so I'm just thinking like in the meantime, let's say pre-trade, I'm trying to picture what life's going to be like without the big fella, and that starts tonight with fans back for the first time at the Wells Fargo Center. 4 straight home games this week for the Sixers. Look, it's easy to say, okay, Tony Bradley and Dwight Howard need to step up in his place because those are going to be the backup bigs. We just saw them combine for 32. Newsflash, people, ain't going to happen too often where those two combine for 30 plus in place of the big fella. But who needs to step up and, kind of will this team to a couple wins while Joel's out, because we've seen what this team's like without him, dude. Like that game against Chicago without him and Ben, that's an anomaly. That's not going to happen, especially against better competition. We've seen what this team, they 1-5 without Joe on the floor this year. And, it always goes back to 2017 when Ben ripped off 16, 17 straight wins at the end of the season without Joe. Who needs to step up for this team to, just stay in that 1-2 range? Because Brooklyn's a half game behind us. Milwaukee's a game and a half. Like Joe's going to miss some time. You could be looking at the 3 or the 4 seed in a couple days. So who prevents that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the simple answer would be Ben, and I think it will be Ben. Beginning of the season, I think Ben was worried about facilitating, getting guys involved that weren't really here last year, trying to figure things out. But lately it's just been put the head down, attack the paint, and just finish through guys. And I think that's what you're going to see with Joe gone. There's no more – not that Joe gets in his way, because I hate the term of these two getting each other's way. They can't play together, yada, yada, yada. But I think Ben's going to be on a mission these next couple of weeks, especially with that, like we said, casual that had a lot to say about him. But he was on his IG Live today talking to Josh Richardson, talking about how he can't wait to hoop. And I think you're really going to see like a resurgence here where he just puts up 25-point triple-double, 30-point triple-double, and look like he looked against Utah when they put the Defensive Player of the Year on him and said, we're going to guard your shooters. We'll see if this dude can do himself. And he put a 40 ball in the dude's head. But I'm going to go with Ben.
Listen, Go ahead.
I was just going to say, how long has it been since Ben played? That Utah game is, like a week and a half ago?
Yeah,
because he dealt with all the COVID, quarantine and all.
It was on a Thursday, I think.
Yeah. So do you foresee aggressive Ben just getting right back into form? Or, where do you think Ben picks off, Gint?
Yeah, I mean, he
picks up.
Naturally, Ben starts games well. He has his career. He always starts the first quarter very well, and he always starts attacking the rim. So I don't see there being like a rust factor or it's been a week and a half. He hasn't put his shoes on. I think he'll be fine. Like I said, I'm really excited to see what's about to happen. Obviously not excited because Embiid's not on the floor because you want to see Embiid play. He's the MVP of the league, but I'm really looking forward to see what Ben does these next couple weeks.
All right,
hit us with it, Brock.
Let me take it to you, but then I'll make a different point. I'll stand for a different player just for live's sake. But let me kick it to you about Ben. All right, he's got Doc Rivers coaching him. Right, he doesn't have Brett Brown coaching him. There's a coach that played the game, that played around goats, and has been coaching for over 2 decades. That's in his ear with Sam Cassell, with Dan Burke, with Dave Yeager, Popeye Jones. All of that matters. These are well-seasoned, really good basketball coaches and basketball geniuses. What they have Simmons doing, what they instilled in Simmons is the standard. There's no reason to regress and go back because Ben sees what he's doing now. He knows it's in him, and he sees how easy it is for him. It's effortless for Simmons. The passing, the playmaking, the ball handling, it's all second nature. The Sixers don't have to do anything to force it but give him space and let him do his job. So he sees it's in him. There's absolutely no reason for him to regress. I think it's the standard. Ben's going to ball out. And Ben's chilling. He's in the IG Live. He's talking to Richardson. They're like, who they playing? They're playing San Antonio. He didn't even really know. It was
the Spurs. Yeah.
And he's like, who should I guard? Like, who do you want me guarding? Like, for him, he's just grabbing his bag and his sneakers, going to the game, doing his thing, doing what he's supposed to do, doing his calling, and going home. And he just so happens to be a demigod. Like, he's a basketball freak. He's one of the best players on the entire planet. That's something that only like 400 players ever could say. Like, I mean, Ben is just a beast. Like, he shows up, he guards whoever, he does his thing, and he leaves. It's that simple for him. He's gonna ball out. I'm not worried at all. I need Tobias Harris to play his best basketball ever. And this season, he's been doing that. But right now, the offense runs through Joe. Joe's the entire offense, and then the Sixers pivot on everything outside of Joe. And Ben and Tobias are good enough to make that equation as dangerous as it is. Without Embiid, you lose 30 points a night. And you have to depend on your backup bigs to make up for that 30. If it's Dwight, if it's Tony Bradley, if they sign Boogie, like chances are your two bigs aren't going to combine for that 30 against good teams. So what has to happen is Ben maybe gets 2, 3, 4 more buckets. Now he's at 22, 24 points a game. Tobias, if he gets 4, 5, 6 to 8 more points a night, then that load on the backup bigs is now not 30, it's like 20. So the backup bigs have to do less offensively if Ben and Tobias do more. I know Ben's going to do more. Nadir, I guarantee he does more. We'll look back at this in a month, and I'll say I was right. Like, I guarantee Ben goes crazy in this next couple of weeks. But what has to happen is Tobias has got to step up and continue to play his best ball. Be a reliable option. Don't be afraid to shoot the rock in the fourth quarter. Let the Sixers keep relying on you. Keep hitting your spots. And there's no reason why Tobias can't do that. He's got a coach, like I said, in his ear and an entire staff full of guys saying, this is what you can do. You're doing it right now. Don't change anything.
I'm going to take it a different route. I like both your answers. They're both, correct. Hold on. I got to echo. We good? Yeah, we're good now. Right. Oh, can you guys hear it or no?
Yeah. What the
heck? Yeah, everyone hit mute real quick.
I got you.
All right, on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good. I'm still
hearing
it.
Jesus. Good, bro. We're not good.
Nah. Hold on. We good now?
We're good now, yo. You look guilty up there in the top right.
You
look guilty up there in the top right.
He left the chat. Come back in. All right, I'm going to take it a different route, though. I'm going to go, it's not one player, it's the 3-ball.
Okay.
It's Danny Green, it's Seth, it's Shake hitting threes, it's Tobias hitting threes. And I say that because we've seen Ben and Toby go off without Joel. We saw it against Utah. Now, I know that's one game and we didn't play very good defense. We didn't have Shake either, so that could just be an anomaly. But we've seen what points in the paint versus 7 3-pointers and 18 3-pointers versus 7 made 3-pointers for the Sixers equals. It's an L. So, yeah, Ben's got to pick up the slack. Toby's got to pick up the slack. But I'm going to need Seth and Danny and Shake and whoever to start knocking down a couple more threes per game, because without the big, you just said, Brock, 30 points? That's not easy to just make up in the paint. So it's a lot more easy if these 3-ballers can pick it up. While if Ben can get to 24, 25 a game, Toby's at 25 a game, and then, Seth, Danny, and all are banging a couple more threes down. That's what I need to step up. Joel said it even when he was playing and they took an L. We're not shooting enough threes. You're not shooting enough. You're not making enough. That's one area I think they need to pick up when he's not on the floor.
So to your point, and listen, you guys are basketball minds. Like, you know what you're talking about. The Sixers are undefeated in 10-plus games. I forget the exact number. It's either 12, 13, or 14, somewhere in that range. They're undefeated in those games when they make 6 or more 3-pointers in the first half. They haven't lost any of those games. And you guys know exactly why. It's because Embiid, Ben, and Tobias are good enough to compete with anybody 3-on-3. The three of them, if they get a one-on-one matchup, can compete with anybody. And teams have to double because of that. They can't lose single-handedly because of one player. When they double, the shots open up. If you hit those shots, you make those threes, and you do it early in the game, you will win. And the Sixers have proved they will win every time they do it, because the trio of Ben, Joe, and Tobias is too good to match up with. And if you double, and the Sixers score every time you double or close to it, you will lose.
He's staying muted down there. Just make sure.
Yo,
Shit, what did you do?
You should have heard the noise on my neighbors probably were like, "What is going on?" It sounded like I had a surround sound going, bro. It was like everything you said. It sounded like it was
next to a surround sound, bro. These goofballs that live next door to me, they're still playing his music.
They still playing.
Let me ask you guys something real quick, because Brock, you say it best. Tobias Harris is a grown man bucket.
Yes.
And when we made the move for Tobias at the time, 50, 40, 90 was the idea. He just had missed the All-Star team when the West was like absolutely loaded. And then last year happened. And I mean, last year was like weird. The roster was constructed so poorly. Brett, in my opinion, was not the best of a coach. But did you see this coming? Did you see Tobias turning back into this guy that he was with Doc? Because before Doc, he wasn't that guy. And then after Doc, he wasn't that guy. So did you see this coming where you knew he was going to turn to this 50, 40, 90 guy again? Oh, here we go. He's got the receipts. He's got the receipts.
Let me do something real quick. Man, my Wi-Fi is a little spotty right now, but all right, so I'm just gonna pull up the date here. All right, so this was December 17th, 2020. Los Angeles Clippers, Tobias Harris versus Philadelphia 76ers. Tobias, what to expect under Doc? 6 minutes, 57 seconds. You go back and watch that video. I might be a fortune teller. Like, I saw this happening before it happened. And if you watch this video, you'll see exactly what's happening right now. It wasn't that hard for me to see either. Like, I don't want to sound like a self-righteous, like I'm smart. It wasn't hard for me to see. I watched his game in LA and compared it to what was happening in Philly. In LA, Doc just let Tobias play his game. He knows, like you just said, Matt, he's a grown man bucket getter. If he gets to his spots, he's getting a bucket. If he has a mismatch, he's getting a bucket. Like, he's 28 years old now. If you put a 24-year-old on him, you put someone that's 6'5" on him, like, he's a prime Melo's poor man, or a poor man's prime Melo, I should say, which isn't disrespectful, but his game is molded kind of like Melo's, except he doesn't catch as many bodies and his handles aren't as extravagant,
Right.
But he gets his buckets, like he gets to his spots. Doc just let him do that in LA. He gave him a screen. He let him get to his spots. Hit your spot on the elbow. Get downhill to the basket. Attack this mismatch. And then what happened with Brett Brown is you force him into thinking more. Force him into handling and making passes more. Now he's like, all right, I get the ball right here, but Al Horford's on the low block. Embiid's on the right low block. Simmons doesn't know where the hell he is. Like, should I shoot this? Do I pass it to this Josh Richardson in the corner? I know he can't hit a three. No disrespect. Like, what am I supposed to do? Now, Doc is doing exactly what happened in LA. There's one big man in the perimeter, if anything. Like, sometimes Tobias just gets four outside of it. No one's in the perimeter. And even if there is a big in the perimeter, there's three guys around the perimeter that are ready to shoot. So Tobias can just get to his mismatch, and if it's not there, I'll kick it to a shooter. And if not, Joel Embiid will set a screen. You just get him to his spot. So it's not like he's doing anything crazy or shooting like this unprecedented volume. Like, he takes his shots, and he makes a lot of his shots. So the 50% from the field is exactly what I expect. The 80, 90 from the line is exactly what I expect. The 40 from three is exactly what I expect. As long as he has the space and he knows where his shots are coming from, this is the standard for Tobias. Listen, you go back and watch that video. I read it like a book.
It's the Doc Rivers effect, bro. And it sounded so corny before the year started, right? Like, he'd be in interviews and he'd be saying, he's just got to make quicker decisions. Less dribbling, quicker decisions. Like, oh, okay, really? That's all he's got to do? It's all he's been doing. But the other thing is, it was either an article or an interview I listened to with Tobias not too long ago talking about Brett last year. And I forget exactly which hand, right or left, he's better at going. I forget what, like, the interview entailed. He's better at going left than someone, like, they were pulling up plays from last year where Brett had him going right. And they're like, well, if you're why are you going right? He's like, I don't know. Brett drew it up right, so I went right. Like, Brett Brown, just like, when you see how he had Tobias playing, and then you insert Doc Rivers, and then you see Joel's dominant, man. He's been dominant. But now he's got him at an MVP level. And then you see the assistant coaches in Ben Simmons' ear. Sam Cassell is in Ben Simmons' ear after every damn mistake.
Yep.
every single
Not even the mistake, just every minute. Like he's in his ear every minute.
I'll tell you what you haven't seen in a minute is that dribble drive to the paint, jump 180 pass. You haven't seen that since the beginning of the season.
The thing that I just want everyone to understand, like when I do the breakdowns, the one message I want to convey is how simple the game is. Like if you watch my breakdowns consecutively, whatever, you can kind of watch the game differently on your own. And you start to pick up on these things. Like it's really just a very simplified offense. And all it is playing to the strengths of the guy on the roster. It's not like these guys are doing some uncharacteristic things. Like Embiid, we saw this potential in him when he was a rookie. When they drafted him out of Kansas, anyone that was rooting for the Sixers was like, yo, what did we just luck into? Like, this guy's a beast. You saw him play. There was the injuries. Like, he battled through all of that. And this is what we saw happening. So the Sixers staff, like, they don't got to run plays up for him. They don't got to complicate things. Like, just give him the ball in space and let nature run its course. That's what they're doing. It's the same with Ben. It's like we saw this in Ben. He was the first overall pick. We knew this was his ceiling. We've been calling him Baby Bron. Like, why is he not Baby Bron? He didn't come into this season and, like, learn how to drive and attack people or learn how to dribble. These are his naturally possessed traits. Like, this is what he does. And the coaching staff's like, all right, do your thing. We'll give you shooters. Right. We'll space the floor. Just do what you always do. The same with Tobias. That's why he's 50, 40, 90. It's like, go out, do your thing. You're good enough to beat 80% of the league. So why should we interfere with that? And that's why, like, when people wanted to split Tobias up or get rid of Joe or, like, you need to trade Ben now in his third season, like, you're too nearsighted. These things don't happen right away. They got to come together. Everything's got to mesh together. You need the perfect situation. And right now, there's no core better than Embiid and Simmons, just in terms of age and what they do. Like, Donovan Mitchell and Gobert, absolutely not. Jamal Murray and Jokic, absolutely not. Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, no. Tatum and Jaylen Brown, no. Like, there's no core in the NBA that's as good as Simmons and Embiid is. If you put the right guys around them and everything else is right around them, that's when you have the concoction for a championship. And right now, they're on their way for that. So if it doesn't happen this year, if it doesn't work this year, their book is just being written. There's 4 more years of this. There's 3 under contract, but there could be 4 more years of this. You never know. Like, now everybody looks back and you wish Kobe and Shaq never broke up.
Right.
You look at these duos and you're like, why the hell would you split them? Like, why would you want to split Embiid and Simmons? Like, give them some time. They're giants. Right. Like, they're crazy together. Give them time.
Let's talk. You guys want to talk some trade targets?
I got time.
Because one thing I was just thinking about, you mentioned, like, with Joel being out now, does Morey pull the trigger sooner on a backup big that can fill in? My mindset is, like, I'm just going to, like, play devil's advocate and look at it the other way. Brock, I've been saying on this show for weeks now, like, I expect Morey to make a move just like you do. Like, there's going to be 2 more players added, whatever. But you need, like, everyone that doesn't want to trade Tyrese Maxey or whatever for the future, Joe's ready now. Like, Joe is ready to win now. There's no more next year, in a year or 2. It is now. But with this injury, like, just for conversation's sake, do you think that changes Morey's aggressiveness at the deadline now? Because it's only supposed to be 2 to 3 weeks. But if they know more, like, that whole Joe's ready now shtick, does that change his aggressiveness, do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think it does. It's like, think about it this way. They dodged a bullet with this injury. Everyone was crossing their fingers, sending their prayers up because we thought this was an ACL. Something with his knee, ligament damage, whatever. They dodged a bullet. There's that feeling in the back of your there's that thought in the back of your mind that, like, if this was serious, is this a team that's primed to compete in the playoffs with just Ben, with just Tobias, and no center?
Right.
So maybe Morey looks at that and he's like, all right, we might not have to go out and get an MVP caliber center to match it, but we've got to get somebody to plug into this role if, God forbid, we have to, where we could still stay afloat in the playoff picture and actually in the playoffs. So I think Ben and Tobias are good enough. I've made that clear, but I think Morey might now look at market, whether it be buyout or trade, and think, all right, we might have to get a big. Like, Kevin Love might have to be a guy we go after. Andre Drummond, like, for example, too big. Something like that might have to happen.
Again, do you think it changes his aggressiveness? Maybe in the other way. Maybe if he thinks this lingers we may be eating this season.
I don't think Daryl Morey will eat this season. He is like the opposite of that. He traded Clint Capella for Robert Covington last year because he thought he had a chance to wheel him to a title. But that's kind of what I was talking about DeMarcus earlier. I was like, if it's 2 to 3 weeks and you're talking about we could really fall to the 3 to 4 seed in 2 days, I thought like a move, if you were going to make one to get a big, would have been
done
2 days ago. Or I shouldn't say 2 days ago, or I guess it was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what his aggressiveness is. This dude's a wild card, man.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's made like 76 or 77 trades like since his Houston dynasty, which was like second most in the NBA, if not most. Like, he's willing to do it. You know it's coming.
All right, bro.
To get a notification that it's like
yeah.
like they got somebody from the NBL, like they just signed someone out of Australia, like something crazy.
Brock, who's your talking trades? Who's your goal backup? Your stretch big? Who is it? Is it we've talked Boogie, but is it Larry Nance Jr.? Is it PJ Tucker? Is it Bielitsa?
Yeah. See, I was gonna put you in a bad position and make him say his name, but for me, it is Nemanja Bjelica. Listen, you probably can't pronounce his name. A lot of people can't. I barely can, but you should definitely know who he is on the floor. I think he's the perfect fit for their system. At 6'10", he's got real deep range, and he's a floor spacer. But more importantly, if the Sixers want to break the game down, he's a guy that could get a bucket one-on-one. It's not like he's strictly a three-point shooter, and he's not a heavy-footed big. So he can pass the ball out of the post well, and he could go get a bucket one-on-one. He can attack a mismatch. And if you think about who he'll be sharing the floor with, he'll never be on the floor on his own at the big position. He'll either be with Dwight, he'll be with Embiid, with Simmons, whoever. So the Sixers will always have a mismatch with him on the floor. Because of that, I think it's real important. And defensively, I just think PJ Tucker probably has a little too much mileage. So if you're looking for a stretch 4 upgrade, I think you go Nemanja Bjelica. And he's only $7 million. Like, you don't have to extend him like you would PJ Tucker, who potentially wants like $25 million, I think.
Yeah. They also want like a Tyler Hero type trade for PJ Tucker.
I heard that. Like, I hope that was I hope that was fabricated, bro. Because if it wasn't, like, we might have to have a talk with some execs in the NBA.
I know my man below me wants no part of PJ Tucker. So again, who's your dream for stretch big? Sorry,
I like the idea of Larry Nance a lot. I just hope that this isn't a false. Like he's playing really well, but he's playing in Cleveland, where he's probably playing a little bit more free than he would anywhere else because of how terrible they are. I wouldn't mind Bjelica, but like I said, I want nothing to do with PJ Tucker. He doesn't even shoot the ball well anymore. I don't even know what he does well at this point. So I definitely don't want to.
Averaging 4.4 a game on 30% from deep.
You can catch me on a no on that one.
Tough no. All right, Brock, let me ask you this. What's more of a need and where would you go? So there's been obviously this bench needs bench shooting and scoring. But at the same time, they've been linked to a backup point guard, another secondary ball handler, and George Hill, DeLon Wright. What's more of a need in your opinion? Because you have Shea kind of running that second unit. Are you looking at a George Hill type player, or are you looking at a Terrence Ross bucket getter, a Wayne Ellington 3-point shooter? Where are you looking to go?
I'm looking at all of them. Like, if we can add all of them, I'm cool. So here's the thing. The Sixers starting 5 plays positionless. There is no real point guard. Ben Simmons is a point forward. He just plays point from his position. I'm not worried about a primary ball handler or facilitator in the starting 5. It's with the second unit.
Right.
Shake alone is enough to anchor a second unit, and he's going to get his buckets, but he's not necessarily a facilitating point guard. He's more of a score-first guard. I think a guy like George Hill or Patty Mills, even Terrence Ross, I'd be thrilled with Terrence Ross. He'd be amazing in Philly. Any of those 3 would be huge in the second unit because they give you both of your most important needs. You need a facilitator, a ball handler, and you need a 3-point shooter. Well, George Hill gives you both because he could spread the rock and he's shooting like 40% from 3 consistently. And him and Patty Mills have been in the playoffs 10-plus times. Patty Mills won a championship. He played in San Antonio, a career 38% shooter from 3 in the playoffs. So they give you both playmaking and shooting. That's killing 2 birds with 1 stone with 1 addition. So if you could get DeLon Wright, George Hill, Patty Mills, it's a win. It's a huge win for the second unit. You can play him along Shake. 2, a guy I really want them to add, like I don't care what the cost is because it probably won't be a hefty cost, is Wayne Ellington. Like you got to do whatever you can do to get on the phone with Detroit and get Wayne Ellington. Like they might buy him out. You don't want him to end up on another team in the East. Like if Brooklyn gets Wayne Ellington, say goodbye. Like that's not good for any team. You need to get on the phone with Detroit and get Wayne Ellington because he's a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. That's where over 60% of his threes come from. He can shoot on the move. He can rotate his body, shoot with a hand in the face. He can run them off the screens. Detroit's offense is a little similar to Philly with their actions. Like he would be a seamless fit in Philly, and he definitely won't cost a lot.
A name that came up the other day, Will Barton. How do you think that's realistic at all? Because like to me, it doesn't make much sense from Denver's viewpoint.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kent, bro, because I know you got some trade candidates.
No, you're good.
Bro, I see you though, bro. You got some ideas though. Like I need you to bounce your ideas off of me.
Dude, I just am not a Wayne Ellington guy.
Now you don't like
and
it?
I think it's because he played Miami, and I just despise Miami, so I just have a sour tongue on my taste. Sour taste on my tongue, but I love the Delon Wright idea that I talked about.
Wait, where did Wayne Ellington play?
Miami.
And he played in North Carolina. Where they beat Villanova in the Final Four. But no, I love the idea of Delon Wright as a backup guard. I'm also not the biggest fan of George Hill. But Patty Mills was a name I haven't really heard, and I think that was like a really good name. Now that you said it, I was kind of pondering that in my head as you were going. But if those guards, and then, but just to jump back to the Delon Wright thing, I think he does a lot more than those other guys in terms of the other side of the ball as well. He also rebounds the ball. He play makes a little bit better.
I'm glad you know that. I'm glad you know that about Delon Wright. Like he's an underrated defender. He slept on defense.
I like Delon Wright, but I'm not huge on a backup guard in terms of a point guard as I am a bucket getter. Like you said the name Terrence Ross, and we talked about this the other day with Terrence Ross and Will Barton, and I would do anything to have a guy that can come off the bench. And I alluded to it with if Terrence Ross played Brett Brown every night, he'd average 100 points a game. He just had an act for Brett Brown. He loved playing against him. But those two are kind of irreplaceable for me in terms of just getting a guy who can just get you 30 off the bench, which Shake has. I mean, obviously they're not going to get you 30 consistently, but one time in ability, they can steal a game for you in a sense. And when we're on this road trip where we're probably not going to have Embiid and we're going in this schedule where it's going to get tough, you'd love to have a guy like that could steal you a game. I think Barton might – actually, I don't know because, like you said, if Orlando sells, you could probably get Terrence Ross. But, like, Denver just doesn't play Barton. And I don't know what – I don't know why. I don't know what he did. I know they love Michael Porter Jr., which I do too. Yeah. But those two to me, I would love that more than I would love a George Hill or a Patty Mills. Or
something. You don't want the 2009 UNC Splash Brothers, Danny Green and Wayne Ellington, bro?
Oh, dude. That North Carolina team stunk.
Yeah, they stunk.
I should say they stink now. None of them are relevant besides those two. Tyler Hansbrough.
All right, but that was a great Ty Lawson. Like that was Lawson. Great.
So
that was
the thing. Let me say this about Denver. Like Dylan, to your point, I'm kind of like, why would Denver trade Will Barton, especially to the Sixers, and help them get stronger? Like, what's the point in doing that? But if you're going to play devil's advocate, like they have I think it's close to $200 million tied in the guards on that roster that aren't Will Barton. Like Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, Facundo. Like they've got guards and they've got money tied to them on that roster, Monty Morris. So maybe with increased minutes for Michael Porter, just to alleviate some of those problems, maybe any tension, you would trade Will Barton if you could get return back. But I don't really know what the market for Will Barton would be. Like, I think all the trades recently have either been really significant or really insignificant. Like, there have been blockbuster deals. So it's like, you can't compare Will Barton's market value to James Harden and be like, well, if Harden got 3 first-round picks, 2 pick swaps, whatever it was, like, I don't know what Will Barton would cost. And I just said they have all these guards. It's not like they're going to drop everything and be like, all right, yeah, let's take on another guard, Tyrese Maxey, just for the hell of it. Like, it would have to be a strategic move for both of them. But I don't know. Maybe Denver could use somebody, and the Sixers could be using bait that we don't know about, like picks, maybe Thybulle. I don't know what they're using as bait. Terrence Ross, though, Terrence Ross would be a home run. Like there wouldn't be many players more impactful to Philadelphia than Terrence Ross would be, because you're not bringing him here to start. You need that punch off the bench, and he's called the Human Torch for a reason. Like he gets in the game and just lights it up. And if you look around the league, there's probably 4 or 5 players off the bench that no matter what, they can step into a game and they're in rhythm right away. And that's rare. Like to get a guy that just comes right off the bench, checks into the game, gets their shot off, and they're good. Like they've got 6 points right away. That's super rare. There's like 4 or 5 guys around the league that could do it. It's like Terrence Ross, Jordan Clarkson, Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell. Like it's a number of very few players. So if you could get a guy like that, it'd be more than a home run. Like that would be the icing on top of the cake.
Again, you and I have talked about it a lot. Brock, who's untouchable to you?
All right, so
because that's a strong word for me. He's untouchable.
Yeah, the trio in the starting lineup is untouchable.
Yeah,
for this year at least, the trio in the starting unit is untouchable. I think Shake Milton is untouchable, and I think Seth Curry is untouchable. I mean, if they traded Seth Curry, they would just be downgrading unless they got an upgrade there. So they would rather move him to the bench than trade him. So I think those 5 are untouchable. Shake, I think they want to keep at all costs. Like I don't think they want to part ways with Shake either. The value he's at on his contract is just unbeatable for the production he gives. So that leaves the rest of the roster. And of those remaining group, I think Dwight Howard's the only untouchable. I think they want to keep Dwight on that vet minimum as the backup center, his presence in the locker room and on the boards. But here's the thing. Maxie, he's a great ball player in my opinion. Like he's got a super high ceiling. And I think he's going to be a ball player. But he might not fit the timeline right now. Like he might be more of a project, and they might look at a guy like, okay, this dude's going to give us 22 a night right now. We need this more than Maxie's 22 a night in 3 years. So that might happen with Maxie. They're probably not in a rush to do that. They don't want to do that. But if it came to that, I think they would. And I'll say the same about Thybulle. Like Thybulle's defense is needed when you play a Boston or a Brooklyn or a Milwaukee. Like you need Thybulle defensively. But the problem is you can't really close a game. Like if it's a 3-point game, you might need a shooter there. So if they have an opportunity to get like a Buddy Hield, for example, and Matisse Thybulle had to be part of that package, I think they do it. But again, they're in no rush. Like I don't think they want to trade Thybulle. Danny Green, I also don't think they want to trade, but he's an asset because of his contract. He's making $15 million, 4th highest on the Sixers. If they want to make a vertical upgrade, if they want to get a better 3-point shooter, or a better stretch big, somebody that's more expensive, they got to trade Danny Green just to make the money work. So right. I also don't think they want to trade him, but he could be an asset there. And then everybody else, I don't think they would really care about trading. Like Furkan Korkmaz, Mike Scott, Tony Bradley, Ferguson, the picks, whatever. I don't really think they care about trading any of them because those spots all got to be upgraded.
Right. Again, good.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because you talk about vertical upgrade, and like obviously the name that's been thrown around the most common is Kyle Lowry. Yeah. So if you were to make that vertical upgrade, I'm not saying it has to be Kyle Lowry. Let's just say there was a deal out there and player X, and they told you, we'll give you your choice whether you want to move Tyrese Maxey or Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah.
Which route would you go? Because we've been asking everyone this, because it seems like it's almost like a 50-50 split. But I know I lean towards the Thybulle way, so I was curious your way.
No, you would keep Thybulle, right?
Yeah, I would keep Thybulle. Sorry, yeah.
Yo, we agree a lot. Like we're bad for live because we just agree on everything. I would say probably trading Maxie as opposed to Thybulle. And it's kind of just piggybacking on my last point. Like I think Maxie's going to be a really good ball player. Like I drew comps to him and De'Aaron Fox. They've got a similar game, and you see what's happening with Fox right now. Like he's blossoming into exactly what he's supposed to be. Kentucky's got a long history of really good guards in the NBA, players even. Like they just know what they got to do. So I think Maxie's going to be a really great ball player, and I'd love for him to be in Philadelphia. But Matisse Thybulle's defense right now is just way more impactful. Like Matisse's defense can alter a game. He can take Zach LaVine out of a basketball game defensively, and that alters the entire game. Tyrese Maxey, what he does for the Sixers right now, wouldn't alter a game unless your 5 starters were out with COVID and nobody was watching the game against Denver because it was at 4:00 in the afternoon or whatever. So
and still don't alter the game because they lose by 30.
They lose, exactly. So Maxie's going to be a great ball player. He's going to grow into his body, and I wish it's in Philadelphia. But right now, Matisse Thybulle's defense is so much more valuable, and he's so much more NBA ready. You just wish Matisse can add a 3-ball.
Yeah, I agree with you both. When the rumors came out, and I hope they're not true either, when the James Harden trade was going down, and we were apparently ready to move Ben, but Tyrese Maxey was like the block on the trade. Like that just didn't add up to me, man. I love the pick on draft night. We finally took the best player available at 21, and then you see how he lit it up earlier in the year and in the preseason, and you're like, damn, we got something special. My main points with what you've been saying, Brock, and I've said it for 2 weeks now, talking about trade targets, the timeline doesn't fit. Ben's 24, Shake's 23, 24 years old. Those are your two. Where does Maxey fit in the equation?
Yeah, and if Ben wasn't on the team, like if it was Shake Milton and Tyrese Point
Right.
shooting guard, in 3 years, the Sixers would be nice. Like that would be lethal. But if you have Ben Simmons on the floor, that's taking the ball out of a ball handler's hands a lot. Like Ben's top 10 in touches every year. So right now, unless he was to develop into like a real good 6th man or a 7th man with Shake, Matisse Thybulle, his defense is just way more valuable. I just think with Philly, like the fans kind of associate with these young, bubbly personalities. Yep. And when they get drafted, like the fans kind of take them in as one of their own. It's like, this is our kid. This is our son. But it's like, it's not. The team drafted him. Like, I get you want your guy to develop into something, like you like his personality, but at the end of the day, it's a business. And the goal of the business operation is to win a championship.
Right.
And if it takes sacrificing somebody in your business to go get somebody more valuable, you got to do that because it's championship and it's money too. Like this is how people feed their families. The people in the front office, the players, this is how they feed their families. And if you're not winning championships, if you're not doing the best job you could do, then you're fucking your money up. So you got to put yourself and your team in the best position to get some money and win.
You mean the same fans that want like Dario Saric and TJ McConnell and Robert Covington?
It's the weirdest thing to me. Like I know him. The way both you reacted, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one. But
dude, like, I can't.
The Mike Scott hive was cool, and like I was a part of those early stages.
I don't want to see the hive chuck up another 3 ever again in a Philly.
Yeah, like the hive was cool at first. It got real popular. Everybody like started messing with it, and that's all.
It was fun.
Like, it was real fun, and that's cool. But like I don't know why every rookie gets like a cult fan base, club, or following in Philadelphia. Like I feel like every rookie of the past 6 years has got one. Like I don't know
the craziest one. The craziest one I'll ever see was, you remember KJ McDaniels?
Yes, KJ. Yes.
Yo, when it was a preseason game, we played the Knicks and they had Melo at the time, and like he played well. Melo didn't play that good, and KJ McDaniels was the one guarding him. And they were like, "Oh my God!" They were like, "We got him. This is him. This is Tony Allen. We just drafted Tony Allen. We got him in the second round." I was like, dude, this guy has played 2 preseason games. We're ready to anoint this man the Defensive Player of the Year award. Like, dude, I couldn't stand process Sixers basketball. It was something I just never liked, and that's why the TJ McConnells, the Robert Covingtons of the world, man.
Like, the TJ McConnells give me a fucking headache, bro. That like
TJ, bro, it was insufferable.
TJ, thank God, bro. TJ over there, get back on the sideline with your pom poms, bro. Like, keep your ass right over there. He won 1 playoff game against the Boston Celtics when we got beaten 5, and you would have thought he was Jesus Christ himself. Like, my God, bro. Like, he is like. Here's the thing, bro. You know when the dude just got like a punchable face?
Yep.
TJ is just like the definition of punchable face, bro.
I feel you. I don't like. Listen, this might be like reverse racist, but I don't like the way that scrappy white guys play basketball. Like I don't like chip on your shoulder. Like
you're annoying, bro.
Versus the world, like constantly in there. Like I just don't like it. It's just annoying.
You know what TJ in the NBA is to me? What? It's that little white dude that tried the video of him trying to guard Zion in high school.
Oh yeah,
that's
Zion.
what I mean. Like that's
he's a D1 player now. You know that?
What?
That kid turned out to be a D1 basketball player.
I saw Zion talking about him on
YouTube. He's Bryce Bishop. He plays somewhere. Yeah, it was Zion. I saw the interview. They were talking to him.
Cool.
He grew like, dude, he's like 6'9", 6'7", 6'8". What? Oh, yeah. He was in 8th grade at that time, dude.
He had some balls, though. Like,
imagine you're in 8th grade and they go, go guard him.
They throw Thanos on the court. They're like, all right, go check Rock. They were like down 30. Like, he's going mad hard. But the TJ Love was always weird to me. Dario Love was super weird.
The Rocco Love's the
Love
worst.
was super
And
weird.
then my man went and got 3 first-rounders traded for him. How does that happen?
The Zaire Smith cult following was weird to me. Like,
that's a thing?
I thought that it was, yeah. The Matisse stuff, like, that was real out of pocket for a little while. Like, that was real weird for a little bit. Like,
I got a folder in my camera roll. It's of the screenshots of the people that thought it was a good trade to move Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith, dude.
You got to send all this stuff to me. So
dude, I keep it all, man, because
Mikal was literally the man. He showed everybody what his ceiling was in college. Like, he was like, I'm going to be this but better when I'm a little older. He showed exactly what he was going to do when he was older.
And we tried to go make an undersized power forward in college, a shooting guard.
Yeah, he can jump high. The worst part about it was they played Zaire Smith in the tournament. Mikal Bridges had like 21, and Zaire Smith was like 4 points on 7 shots. I was like,
get them off.
Let me ask you this though, since we're talking about like trades and buyout market and all that, let's talk about who everyone has their eye on in the East, and that's Brooklyn, right? Because me and Gint have a difference in opinion on this one. I want to get your thoughts.
I got you.
Blake Griffin for the Nets. When I'm talking Sixers standpoint,
yeah,
is it a needle mover at all for Brooklyn?
I don't think it's a needle mover because the needle's already moved for them. Like, they're a championship team regardless. When you put KD, Kai, and James Harden on the floor, you're competing for a championship. It's not so much of a needle mover as it would be like, is that enough to band-aid the discrepancies on their team?
That's what I'm saying.
I would argue right now, no. Because you've got KD, Kai, and Harden, who are 3 of the top 10 best players on the planet. But you can throw all of that at a team. If you can't stop their most dominant player, you're going to have to outscore them every night offensively. For at least 4 games, you're going to have to outscore them. And that's assuming that the team doesn't adjust, doesn't throw different defensive players on different guys, doesn't switch up their defensive game plan. So you're banking on, okay, we're going to outscore LeBron, AD, Trez, Harrell, Schroeder. We're going to outscore them 4 times. Or you're going to outscore Embiid, Simmons, Tobias 4 times. Or Giannis and Chris Middleton and Drew. Like, that's a heavy assumption. You have to be able to defend in the NBA. And is Blake Griffin enough to combat Joel Embiid? I don't think so. Is it enough to combat Giannis? I don't think so. So their interior defense is definitely taking a huge hit right now. Blake Griffin's going to give them like 14 and 5. Like, Blake's going to be Blake. I have no doubt. But I don't know if it's enough to kind of band-aid those discrepancies. They still don't have interior defense.
Yeah, but let me throw it, because I was on the other side of the fence, and when the move made, I was like, I don't like it. I don't like the fact that it happened, and obviously, like you said, they have 3 of the best isolation players probably that's ever played basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So now, as hard as it's going to be, because you look at the way we're going to have to match up against these guys, and at this point, like, you're going to have to throw Ben on Harden. Harden's playing at an elite level right now, a level that he's been playing on, but it just looks way better. And I know KD's not really playing, so they haven't played a ton together, those 3 guys.
Yeah.
And I assume, like, you're like, in terms of body type, you have to throw Tobias Harris at Kevin Durant if you're throwing Ben Simmons at James Harden.
Oh, okay.
That's the only way I can look at it. And then now you're throwing in a guy, and I understand apparently he has 2 dunks in the last years, whatever, he just shoots threes. I think the Blake in Detroit thing was an absolute just throw fest where he was like, I'm going to save what I have, put it in a jar, and wherever I go next, it's going to explode. And maybe – so now you're looking at you have to stop those 3 guys. And on a weird night where you're able to manage to hold those 3 to under 60 points, which is still ridiculous and might not even happen, now you have to mask a guy who, like you said, on average is going to give you 14 and 5. So now you're talking about a good night where he could – potentially put up 26 points. Yeah. So to me, it's like defense is important 100%. Blake Griffin's not going to give them a ton on the defensive side of the ball, but neither was Jeff Green and neither was DeAndre Jordan. So now you're throwing in another possible guy that could give you 25 to 30 points on a random night.
Plus, think about Joe Harris. Like, say what you want about Joe Harris, but he'll kill you. Like, he will single-handedly kill you. If he's hitting his shots and you can't guard him, like, there's nothing you can do. You can't even pick a dude up like that at half court. because there's a one-on-one isolation right next to you. KD's cooking his dude. Like, you got to stay and play help so Joe Harris can kill you. My saving grace with the Philly thing is like, right, you said on a lucky night you hold those guys to under 60. I think Philly matches up with Brooklyn, honestly, better than any team in the league right now, though, because, okay, you've got 6'10" Ben who can roam. Like, you can play based on hot hand. He's got to stick with James, but let's say KD's just lighting Tobias up. Just throw him on Harden. Do some, or throw him on KD. Do something. You've got Tobias 6'8", so he can kind of roam between two positions. Maybe you start Matisse in that series. Maybe you add someone, but Joel Embiid is my biggest thing there. It's like if Embiid gets to his spots early, if on offense he gets to his spots and he establishes himself, like, they're going to be in the game too. Because you say on the lucky night you got to hold them to under 60. Well, on a lucky night you got to hold Embiid to under 30. And how you do that? You got to double team. If you double team, that means other guys are open. So I think you got to get just as lucky stopping Philly as you do Brooklyn. But the one thing that you're right about is that these are probably the three best ISO players in the NBA. So if you're one-on-one with them, like, good luck.
That's insane, dude.
My whole thing, you miss me with the offensive Blake, bro. Miss me with it.
But why? Because
what do you mean why?
He played in Detroit.
Because he's shooting like low 30%, bro.
Doesn't matter. Dude.
He's got nothing anymore.
Let's just say his life.
And I'm not talking about it from the offensive standpoint. When I'm looking at it, no, I don't. When I'm looking at it from a Sixers standpoint, how does Brooklyn get better than they already are versus Sixers? Rim protection and a big to throw at Joe. Blake can't guard Ben in the post. You think he's going to guard Joe in the post?
That's true.
My point is, I get what you're saying. The Nate, like, you had those three, you add Blake, he can give him 15 on a given night, whatever. What did they need to combat Joel Embiid and the Sixers? Rim protection. Blake Griffin doesn't provide that at all. And offensively, he just don't scare me anymore.
Yeah,
I don't see. You said he can give you 26. I'm sorry. Dude, Blake Griffin drops 26 in a playoff game. Again, I'll throw you a nice Chris Blue bill with a Ben Frank on it.
Last time you did that, you remember what happened, right?
Yeah, what bet was that?
Yeah, so just pipe down with the bet.
You
remember 2 years ago, October 18th, I think it was 2019 or maybe even 2018. Do you remember what happened?
When he dropped 50 on us?
50.
Oh.
And I understand that's not going to happen.
What year was that?
I think it was 2018. But that's
what year is it now?
2021. That's not the point. Let me finish my point.
You want to talk about bad takes? Remember when you told me the New Orleans Pelicans would make the playoffs in the West over the Phoenix Suns before the season started? Remember that one?
Yo, let me finish
I didn't think they'd make it over Phoenix, but I thought New Orleans was going to be a lot better than they actually were.
They're confused.
You know why? Because Brandon Ingram just ain't Ben Simmons, as everyone likes to say. See,
that's the crazy stuff people were talking at the beginning of the season. They're like, "Yo, I'd rather have Brandon Ingram for the next 5 years than Ben Simmons." I just had to watch. Like, I had to watch the world on fire. I'm like, bro, you guys are all going to be saying different things in a month. Like, you're all going to be eating your words. So, like, why are you even getting on the internet and tweeting?
What's your last point, Ken?
On Twitter.
Like, saying all that, though, I do think Philadelphia can compete with Brooklyn in a 7-game series. That's not me sitting here saying it's done. They got Blake. It's over. But, like, playing devil's advocate towards them getting Blake means nothing to us.
So I don't think they're done. Like, if they get Andre Drummond, then
that's an issue. That's an issue.
And that's an issue, right? Like, so I don't think they're done. That's why it's kind of tough right now to compare anybody. And it sucks that they're both in the East, because if the Sixers ultimately go down to Brooklyn in the semis or however they get there, it's like, again, the Sixers probably could have got to the finals, but there was a roadblock in their way. Like Kawhi and the Raptors.
Yeah.
That was just the best situation for a team. Like, if they're not in the East last year, the Sixers probably run through that, or 2 years ago rather. But that's hypothetical. The thing is, like, I don't know, bro. I think Philly's just got this blueprint, right? I think this bully ball blueprint is the best basketball you can play. I think that's better than outscoring a team, because you're just going to force teams to foul and just wear them out. So Brooklyn could run with Philly all night, but if they're fouling and Philly gets their spots, then like they're going to be both teams are going to be balling out. I just look at, like, physically around the league, who can match up with Brooklyn. Like, who's got the size, who's got the bodies to match up with Brooklyn. And I seriously don't think anybody can better than Philly, because LA, they've got a lot of talent out there. They've got 2 centers off the bench, but it's like they don't have 3 that could go straight at Harden, at Kyrie, and KD. Like, I don't know if any team can better than the Sixers right now with Thybulle, Tobias, Ben, and Embiid, just physically.
No, I agree with you, bro. Brock, you still wearing small t-shirts?
Absolutely, yo, always. No, I'm kidding. I get a lot of people. I get a lot of people bold in my comments, bro. So let me just point something out. Occasionally, but like, people are super bold and think I'm like telling these lies, bro. I don't even know if you can see the size. Let me try it on a white.
What's it say? What's it say?
It says large. Like, what am I wearing? Medium? Yo, all right, whatever. But you get the point. Like,
I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I don't think you can see it on camera.
No, he just keeps one large in there. I got you. He just keeps one large in there so he can show people he owns a large.
Yo, this is my rotation though. Like 7 straight days a week, I'm either wearing a plain black, white, or a plain black tee or a plain white tee.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen you in anything else, bro.
It's very simple, yo. Very simple.
You're not a jersey guy, Brock? You don't buy jerseys?
I used to. Like, I think I might have just like burned out of doing that. Like, I used to buy jerseys and t-shirts all the time. I would wear them in school all the time, but I think I just burned out. I was a big cutoff guy. I went through a big cutoff phase for like the first year or 2 of college, which I deeply regret because I was stepping out in some spooky outfits. But now I'm chilling in the plain blacks and white.
Yeah. All right. Let me get your guys' opinions before we wrap up on tonight's matchup versus the Spurs. No DeMar DeRozan, no LaMarcus Aldridge for San Antonio. Ben Simmons returns tonight. Also, Krell tweeted out that 3 of the Blue Coats are active for the Sixers tonight. Isaiah Joe, Paul Reed, and
Paul, dude.
Rajon Tucker. So Brock, just give me your opinions on tonight's game. Can the Sixers start out this Joel Embiid-less streak tonight and get a win against San Antonio?
Absolutely. This isn't Brett Brown's daddy, for lack of a better term, Coach Popovich, coaching against him. This is Doc Rivers, all right? Doc Rivers has a system in place. He's looking at the schedule. He thinks San Antonio probably doesn't have a great interior. They can't guard Ben, and they can't guard Tobias, so we're going to attack the mismatches. I expect them to run their stuff and continue to stay solid. I would anticipate a win tonight. I don't think DeMar DeRozan's playing, so if all goes according to plan, the Sixers should get the W tonight.
Again.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I'm ready for this Ben tour, man. I think it's about to get spooky. Yeah, it's about to get spooky.
It's about to get spooky in front of 3,300 fans, 3,100 fans. That's the suckiest part, bro. This was like the return of the fans tonight. And MVP Joe was going to get an audience, and now we got to wait a little longer. But hopefully Ben can carry the torch for now. I agree with you guys. Look, do I think a 22, 26-point win like they just had on the road the last 2 games happens tonight? No. But I expect probably by the end of the game, it's double 10, 11, 12-point win at home tonight against San Antonio. So I go Sixers win as well. Brock, tell the people where they can find your work and what you got going on, because we hit a nerve earlier with 2-5, bro. So tell the people what you're working on.
All right, so I'm on Twitter at LandisBrock. That's where I just tweet like the stats, some video breakdowns, just pictures, whatever. I tweet pretty frequently, so I'm over on that app. And on YouTube, it's just my name in reverse, so Brock Landis the other way around. I do breakdowns after the game, but the Ben Simmons piece I'm working on, if you've ever watched any of my videos, if you haven't, this is the one you're going to want. This is the one you're going to want to watch. You got to lock in and watch it. I don't have a timetable yet, like I might have said earlier, but it should be out by next weekend at the very latest. It's not one you're going to want to miss. Like, I guarantee it's going to change the way you watch Ben.
I hope so, for a lot of people's sake. And also, don't forget, after this is over, go check out his Tobias Harris preseason video.
Back in December. Yo, I read it like a book. I'm going to go back and watch it now.
You can follow myself on Twitter at DylanJD98, and you can follow Gint on Twitter at Matt_McGinty. If you're watching us now, Gint and I will be joined by Mark Henry at starting 5:45 for
WE.
For Selection Sunday live reaction show. We'll be breaking down the bracket and having some fun with it. So come back then, comment along with us, and watch it with us. For myself, for Gint, for Brock, have a nice night. Go Sixers. And Brock, hit them with it. Stay solid, baby.
Solid, baby. Yes.